Welcome to the Childcare Genius podcast, proud to be the world's #1 community for brilliant childcare leaders. Each episode will feature interviews with the brightest minds in the childcare industry to guide you into becoming a smarter business leader. Our hosts have opened 10 schools while raising 5 children. They are certified business coaches and are the top-selling childcare business book authors of all time. This episode is sponsored by Aleaf Childcare Insurance. Give Blake a call at 972-232-2258 to get a free quote on childcare business insurance today. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius podcast our hosts, Brian and Carol Dupre.
Welcome to episode 41 of the Childcare Genius podcast.
We're your hosts, Brian and Carol Dupre. We've got an exciting episode planned for you today. But before we do, we wanted to talk a little bit about an upcoming conference that we have. So we're going to be doing a live conference this year, September 18th through the 22nd in Montego Bay, Jamaica. Now, Carol and I are heading to Jamaica tomorrow and working with some couples down there, but we are going to be taking probably 125, 150 people to Jamaica in September. So the 18th to the 22nd. And it is an amazing conference. Totally different than any conference experience you've ever had. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it real quick. So why do you want to attend? First of all, you're going to learn things you're not going to learn at any other conference. Why? Because it's an owners only conference. We're not going to have any director related content. It's going to be owner related stuff, owner stuff that you wouldn't want your director to hear. That's why they're not allowed to come. It's going to be owners only. So when you go to a normal conference, they have to cater the content to the audience. A lot of times there's directors in the audience, so you have to put director related content. And maybe you can't talk about maybe profit margins. You can't talk about diversification. Can't talk about that 4-letter word. Of course, I know there's 5 letters, but sometimes it's a hidden thing. You don't want to talk about that profit word. So we're going to be talking quite a bit about stuff like that, diversifying, how to make money in real estate. We're going to be teaching you things you're not going to learn in any other conference. So if you can only make one conference in 2023, come to Jamaica with us. You got plenty of time to get a passport. The ticket prices are reasonable. Right now, we're selling tickets for $499 a piece. On our website at childcaregenius.com/leverage. We do guarantee that every person who buys a ticket, whatever they pay for the ticket price, we give to you as a gift certificate, a credit for our coaching services should you ever need them down the road. So that money is going to be used. It's not just you pay for a ticket and it vaporizes. That becomes a credit on your account that you can use for coaching services for us in the future. Nobody else does that. We thought it was exciting to have because you might need help after we get back, and we're going to be there to help you. A couple things about our conference. We only have 4-hour training days. That means by 1 o'clock every day, you're done. You're on the beach. You're hanging out at the pool. And guess what? Our coaches are going to be at the pool doing poolside coaching every single afternoon. So maybe you just have some questions and you want to learn a little bit more. Well, go by the pool and hang out with one of our coaches who's doing poolside coaching that day, or Carol and I. We're going to be in the pool in the afternoons as well. Come hang out with us. You're probably going to have a meal with us, have some coffee, have a drink. You'll see us around. We're not going to be hiding. We're not going to be the man behind the curtain. We don't have no curtain. We're going to be sitting with you. We're going to be hanging out with you. We're going to be having fun and getting to know each and every one of you at our conference. We have no vendors, so there's no vendor hall. We want you to 100% focus on content and relationships and not have to worry about getting sales pitches because we have none. No sales pitches, no vendor pitches. We just want you to go there, relax, leave your wallet at home because it's an all-inclusive resort. You don't even have to pay for tips. You don't even have to tip the bartender because it's already been done for you. So just relax, all-inclusive resort. The price is about the same you'd pay at an American hotel, except ours includes alcohol and non-alcoholic drinks and all your food. Some rooms are as low as $300 a night, all-inclusive, for two people. It's a really good deal. So if you go on our website, there's a video on how to book your hotel room because you get up to a 10% discount by using certain booking codes. So go ahead and check that. You will love our conference. If you have any questions, just email me. Brian, Brian, at childcaregenius.com. Be happy to answer those questions. So we hope to see you at the Child Care Genius Leverage Conference. What is leverage? Leverage is being able to control your business instead of your business controlling you, getting control of your time and being able to let your business work for you instead of you working for it, gaining your life back. We're going to teach you how to do that at our conference. So we're excited about that. And so today we're going to have a guest on a podcast. His name is Blake Sanders. And Blake is an insurance agent with Aleaf Child Care Insurance. Aleaf has been our insurance agent, I think, for about 6 or 7 years, ever since we discovered them. We transferred from our local agent to them because they specialized in childcare. We found out the one thing that local agents lack is childcare knowledge, so they don't really know how to cover us properly. So we switched to Aleaf, and we're so glad we did. We have proper coverage now. We've had made claims before on those policies, and they've been behind 100% with good coverage. So we're excited, and you'll learn things on this podcast today about insurance that you've probably never heard before.
Definitely. And let's get Blake on the line. Hi, Blake. How are you today? Welcome to the Child Care Genius podcast.
I'm good. How have y'all been?
Awesome.
Good to see you, Blake. Been a little while. It's been a whole month since I've seen you.
Yeah, we got to get together on your trip to San Antonio.
Yeah, we're down in Texas, and we met with you and the owner of Aleaf Insurance, and we had a nice meal together, and had some good time down in San Antonio, Texas. So it was a great time. So we wanted to interview you today because obviously you're our favorite insurance agent.
Thank you.
My neighbor or my friend who's a real insurance agent will probably be mad at me for saying that, but he probably doesn't listen to the podcast anyway.
His name's Blake too.
Oh, his name is Blake too. So
what's
yeah.
the chance of that?
So when I say I like Blake, my agent, then he doesn't know who I'm talking about. So that's cool.
True.
But anyway, wanted to get together with you because it's such an important component to childcare, having the proper insurance. And so many people that I do calls with, when I talk to them about some of the insurance coverage they have, they are seriously lacking proper coverage. A lot of them. They're being sold cheap policies that don't have proper coverage. They think like they're getting a good deal, but they're really not. And I wanted to bring somebody on who's an expert and talk about some of those things today. And so let's start in with tell our listeners how you got into the childcare business, and then a little bit more why it's important to have a specialized childcare insurance agent than just a normal neighborhood insurance agent. Kind of wrap that into one question.
Okay, we can do that. So, man, I guess I'm going to age myself a little bit here. About 20 years ago, after we graduated, my wife wound up having a baby and wanted to spend time with her. So decided she's going to go and work in childcare. That way, make a little bit of money, also get free childcare. That really helped us tremendously. So she went that road, worked her way up through assistant director. Probably about 10 years into her career, the owner wound up passing away. The owner's daughter didn't really have the passion for it to want to take over, so was interested in selling. She had approached me and my wife, and we had a good relationship, was going to make us a great deal to own the school ourselves. So me and my wife got to talking about it. I'm like, I think this is a great idea. I mean, you're the director, you're running it anyways. Why not? Let's take the jump. Let's own it. Well, her holdup was the risk involved. Me at the time, I really didn't understand. What do you mean? I mean, you have the same risk you're having now. I just didn't understand that piece of it. So I told her, you know what? Why don't we call our local insurance agent that does our home and auto, and let's talk to them about it and see if they can insure us, kind of walk us down the road of the risk that we would be exposed to. And if that makes you comfortable, then we can proceed and possibly let's go in and purchase the school. So we did that. Our agent was a friend of ours. We went to high school with him, talked to him. He was like, man, I can get you a quote. I'm just not sure I can cover you properly. I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. He was like, well, I don't do this all the time. I do home and auto, but I have a carrier that I think can do this for you. I'm like, okay. So We got on a three-way call. My wife started asking questions that I wasn't even familiar with, but nor was the agent. So he then referred us to another friend of his who was also an agent, but did more the commercial lines. I'm like, okay, great. This guy insures businesses. He's going to be able to make us feel good about our decision. Talked to him. He really didn't know much about it either. He kind of insured a little bit of everything, probably more general contractors, things of that nature than childcare. So we've gone through two different insurance agents. Nobody can just make us feel like we're covered, everything's okay. So wound up, my wife never felt comfortable. If she doesn't feel comfortable, she was going to be the face of it. I wasn't going to pressure her into making a decision. Financially, it was a fantastic deal. Hindsight, I'm sad that it didn't work out for us. But on the other side, it got me curious enough. I'm like, okay, well, if I can't find someone to help us make a lifelong decision, I'm going to find some information about this. So it really got me curious, started asking questions, finally started finding some agencies out there that did know what they were talking about, and wound up going to work for one. I'm like, there's got to be more people out there that have passed up on great opportunities over fear of the what if. So that's what really brought me to specialize in childcare insurance. Is I always assume like insurance is insurance is insurance. I can call my local State Farm guy and he could tell me, yes, I can help you and insure you, and realize that just wasn't the case. So now fast forward 10 or so years later, here we are. And that's what really got me into this, is just trying to help people that were like me that just didn't get a chance to do it.
Awesome. Good story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely. I know that we learned some things, even after being in the business for so long, things that we weren't insured for that we should have been.
And I know even insurance over the years, and I know me and you, Brian, have talked about it, coverages and options out there change. I mean, as the years go on, the way the world changes, insurance changes with it.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes good, sometimes not.
Mm-hmm.
What are some hidden blind spots owners face when it comes to insuring childcare programs?
Oh, goodness. There's quite a few. One of the more recent ones that I've found a lot of people don't understand that it's a part of. So typically, everybody's thinking, okay, if I don't make a claim, I'm always going to have good premiums. My rates will be great. Well, I would say about the last 2 to 3 years now, we all love as childcare owners when state licensing comes in. It's a great time. But what the insurance carriers now are doing is they're looking on the state licensing page at your school and looking at the deficiencies. So those schools that are having some of it, and what I'm seeing is the most common is ratios, background checks, and administrative paperwork not being complete. Those things alone are preventing a lot of customers from getting to the correct carriers to not only save them money, but cover them in the right way. So nothing to do with claims and the way it's ever worked in the past now has a big part to do with what your rates are going to be and if you're even going to be approved. And that's something that nobody's really realized. And again, like I said, this has only been going on for the last 2 or 3 years, but your deficiencies in licensing are so important now to be able to get you the better rates, unlike what used to be. I didn't make a claim. Okay, great. I can get good rates. That's really, really changed. A couple of the other ones, kind of going back to the last question, I think it kind of ties in together as well. You're starting to see some of the carriers now put in sublimits. Most people, they look at the policy, okay, great, I've got my big $1 million of general liability, but what they don't realize is they've only got maybe $100,000 in coverage because their abuse and molestation coverage, which is very important in our industry, winds up being sublimited down to 100,000, 300,000. And that 100,000 is also going to include attorney fees, court fees. That's not going to even get you in a courtroom for an abuse case, only having $100,000. So one of those things that I run across when I see somebody's like your other Blake had wrote the school for you guys. That's really what I see. Those sublimits that the agent nor the client realize are there because they're just seeing the big limit. That's another blind spot that people really understand at a base level their insurance coverage. And going with that agent that specializes in childcare, like ourselves, that's when we can help you understand everything as a whole. Because it's not only for how do I cover myself, but you need to know if an issue happens, like you, for instance, Brian. If something happens, a child gets hurt on the playground, you know what's going to happen. You know what part of your policy is going to cover that. You know how to handle it, and it makes it easy. If you're gone, your director knows what to do when they have to make that tough phone call to call the parent that little Johnny was injured on the playground. But as long as we know truly how we're covered, that's a much better conversation to have. Hey, this happened. This is what we're going to do to be able to take care of it. Because that's the most important thing. And that's what's all about, taking care of the children.
Awesome.
Yes.
But there's a lot there. And I'm so glad you brought up about the deficiencies. And that makes sense because, I mean, the reason it's higher premiums for your car policy when you get caught for speeding is you're more than likely to cause an accident if you speed. Well, you're more than likely to have an incident at your center if you have deficiencies, if you're out of
Yes.
ratio, if that, I guess, and these actuaries who determine the rates, and of course they have to make a profit, they have determined that their biggest claims have come from centers that have been deficient. So it makes perfect sense. So if you're a center out there that gets a lot of deficiencies, it's going to cost you more money in your premiums. So sometimes it might be cheaper to get it done right, not be out of ratio, and things like that, so it doesn't hit you on the financial side. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I had no idea about that, and I'm glad we have very few deficiencies. So that makes me feel good on the policy side, but makes me even more concerned to make sure that we don't have those deficiencies.
Yes.
And then in there. So what are some products that you offer at Aleaf to help childcare owners?
So we can go just backtrack it to what we were just talking about. Student falls off the playground. It's something simple as a student accident. And you'd be amazed on how many schools out there do not have that. But what on the other side they don't realize is an accident to a child is excluded from your general liability policy. So if little Johnny was to get hurt on the playground, the only way your insurance policy can cover him, if you do not have a student accident, is for his parents to sue you. If you have a lawsuit, then your general liability would kick in. But then that's a nightmare. That's a PR issue. That's a reputation issue. It's so much nicer. Have a very inexpensive policy. And when I say inexpensive, I'm talking about like $6.75 per child per year. Very minimal amount of money, not to have to worry about getting sued, to be able to take care of your client, but the child at the end of the day. Another one, and I know we've talked about this in the past, is your EPLI. And that's, to me, is a huge one today. So employment practices liability insurance. That really, to me, is for the owners, and especially those owner operators. So EPLI, pretty simple. It's to cover businesses against claims by workers that their legal rights as employees of the company have been violated. So what we typically are seeing is sexual harassment, discrimination, wrongful termination has been a very big one as of late with the workforce, just the way the world has gone. And then failure to promote has been a big one, not having the documentation. Well, you promoted this person over this person, but maybe the person that you did not promote was more qualified, was better on paper. So we're seeing lawsuits come, and lack of documentation is what's causing people to win. But those, I would say, would be two of the bigger ones that don't seem to be real common in the average childcare owner's policy. And maybe it's for the price, but like you said earlier, the cheapest is not always the best. If I'm this is my livelihood, I've poured everything I have into this business. I'm going to spend a little bit extra money to make sure I can hold on to that business should the unfortunate come.
Love that. Yeah, you're
Definitely.
right. Because it's easy to get a cheap policy, but you got to look at the coverage. And an EPLI is something that can be very expensive to litigate. And I heard the average settlement's about 400 grand. So if you don't have EPLI and you get sued for discrimination, that's 400,000 is coming out of the owner's pocket. And that was from an
Yes.
attorney telling me that was the 400,000. And a lot of that's legal fees as well. So you don't want to be caught on that without
Right.
EPLI insurance. What about non-owned auto? Is that another area where it could be a liability? You offer that?
It is. We do, because so many times at the schools, you're going to have days get hectic. We ran out of something simple. We're going to need to send a teacher real quick, run to the store, get us this, bring it back. Well, they're going on company time. I know here the minimum amount of liability is truly the word. It's minimal. It doesn't cover half the vehicles on the road out there. So what happens is that teacher, director, whoever it is, they're going to the store, they're using their own vehicle. They probably don't have an adequate amount of coverage like what the school does. So if they go out, have an accident, if anybody finds out they're on company time, they're going to be sued, and the child care center is going to be involved in the lawsuit. If you have hired and non-owned and your employee's insurance cannot cover the accident, your policy will sit on top of theirs to try to prevent you from being sued. We can go ahead and just get them paid anything on top of their policy, and then hopefully move on from the issue.
It's a
But
good
yes,
deal.
I wouldn't run a school without hired and non-owned. And that's the coverage that some people don't realize. Just because you don't have buses and 15 passenger vans, that's still an auto policy is still a policy you can get and just have hired and non-owned. So you have that $1 million to sit over your employees if you're having to send them out for anything work related during the business day.
Even if they're off the clock, I bet you could still get sued. Our people clock out when they're moving between locations, but because it's the company directed, anybody can sue anything for anything. It doesn't mean you won't be sued, even if they're off the clock. So it's good
Correct.
to have it.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Can you give us one example in your insurance career where a client was helped by having the right insurance coverage?
Yes, there's lots of them, but I'm going to talk about one just because it's kind of the way the world is going, and something a lot of people don't correlate with childcare. So throughout the nation, what we've probably been seeing, I don't know, 5, 8 years now, is medical marijuana or recreational marijuana is becoming legal in a lot of states. So there has been cases where, whether the state has it legally or not, that teachers have had just CBD gummies, whether they have the bad stuff in them or not. They have those for their personal use, but maybe forgot and bring them into the school. And then some of the students have maybe gotten into the teacher's bag and ingested them. So you're thinking, okay, well, how is this going to be covered? Like, this is kind of new to the world. I mean, much less just childcare, but it's under abuse and molestation, shockingly. But if you didn't have $1 million, you had just a subpar policy, they only had $100,000. Well, what happens when the incident happens to 5 kids? That $100,000 is not going to cover 5 claims. And whether it's something like the CBD side, typically any abuse claim for that matter, when an attorney gets involved, they're going to look for other people in the school to join that suit. So what we see initially being one abuse claim for something, at the end of the day, usually turns into multiple. So that being said, going back, and something we really haven't talked about today, an umbrella policy is extremely important to have for a center, because you may be able to handle with $1 million 1 or 2 suits. But what happens when 4 or 5 all fall in together with the same thing? Now we have an umbrella that sits on top. But that's even one of the blind spots that are out there. Not all umbrellas actually sit over abuse and molestation. So again, That's why you need a true child care insurance agent to make sure you're covered properly should something bad happen. Because you could be great. I have $1 million in my abuse. I have $1 million for my umbrella. I can handle things happening. But what happens is your umbrella doesn't sit over your abuse. So what you thought you had, you really do not have.
Wow, that's kind of eye-opening. But that's why we have a child care insurance agent looking out for us that specialize in child care. We have a unique set of liability out there that could really hurt our business, could actually put us out of business if we make the wrong decision. So insurance, I think, in our industry is so much more important than most industries. It's like medical and childcare are the two ones where you really need really good insurance coverage, dealing with children and dealing with medical. So if you're in either line of work, get productly insured. So what's your what do you do to relax and unwind? We got a mindset question for you. So what's your go-to for relaxation?
Relax, I guess the closest thing I can find to relaxing is just time off with the kids, but it usually winds up at one of their extracurricular activities. I look at it as that's time I'm never going to get back, whether I enjoy it or I don't. To me, if I can support my kids, I can make it relaxing. So whether it's musicals with my daughter, it's sports with my son, that's pretty much my good time.
I love that. You don't get that time back. Our youngest turned 21 today. I was like, our kids are young. Now it's the grandkids generation coming in. But boy, we miss that, having the kids at the younger ages. It goes way too fast. So I love that. Well, we want to thank you, Blake, for coming on. You shared some things that you haven't shared before. We got into a couple extra things. So that's why I kind of wanted you to come on today, to give you some of that extra, things evolve. We want to change. We'll probably bring on every year just to give you the latest and greatest. And it's something you can't get enough of is adequate childcare protection. How do they reach you, Blake, if they want to reach out?
2 ways you can reach me. Email. It's pretty simple. It's blake@aleafinsurance.com, or you can reach me on my cell phone. It's 972-754-8595.
Thank you, Blake.
I'm good.
Yeah, we'll put those in the show notes. So look down below in our show notes, and we will have that contact information here. And we want to thank you. Aleaf Insurance has been a proud supporter of our podcast for the last several months. And you and Janae, the owner, are really good friends of ours. We really appreciate you supporting our business. But we've also known that we've been with Aleaf for 6 or 7 years, and we love you guys. And thank you for always being there for protecting us as well.
Thank you for everything you do as well.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you, sir.
You too.
Bye-bye.
That was a great interview. I learned some new things.
Yeah, it was good. Blake really knows his stuff. And I mean, there's some good stories. And the thing about the deficiencies, had no idea. So I hope that was educational. Some people in there start cleaning up your house in order and know that paperwork and things like that is important. Ratios, obviously, deficiencies will cost you money and time. So be sure to check out this episode and all future episodes by subscribing to our podcast. But if you ever need a coaching call with me, if you're a center owner, I do calls for centers. If you're a center owner and you're struggling right now and you don't really know where to turn, you need help in one or two areas of your business. Maybe it's on the financial side. You don't understand finances. Maybe you just need help with enrollment. Maybe you need help with staffing. I can help you in all those areas. Go ahead and go to our website at childcaregenius.com and click on, I'd like a free coaching call. And I'd love to do a call with you. We go on a call for 30 minutes. I'll give you some concrete tips how to help your business. I do about 10 calls of these a month. It's my give back to the community that I donate this 5 hours a month. I want to help you. So it's a first come, first serve. If I have availability in my calendar, go ahead and book it. And we just love giving back and helping out. And we're going to go ahead and conclude this episode 41 of the Child Care Genius podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life to spend a little time with Carol and I.
And just a reminder to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a future episode of the Child Care Genius podcast. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Child Care Genius podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favour and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help grow your childcare business. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Childcare Genius community.